I have had out-of-body experiences where I disassociated from the effects of this research. I have discovered the violence within, how violent some of my own thoughts are as a result of reflecting on the impact of my research on violence. Fortunately, I had very, very strong protective factors that as soon as I envisioned, smashing into somebody's car or, cutting somebody's throat, and I would have those images. Not sure I would have been aware of them before I did this research, but automatically would come images of, if I did that, this person would be hurt, this person would die, I'd have images of blood. I did think of the other person first, which is just remarkable to me, and it's just inbuilt, it's nothing I willed. And so that would stop me, and I would say, how ridiculous. But then the other part of my self-reflection led me to realize that I enjoyed feeling like I could kill somebody, or I could shoot somebody, or, just exact revenge on them. So I had to do a lot of work on the revenge motives that I have inside of me. The other thing I realized is that I didn't always enjoy images of violence, because there was one incident that happened right while I was talking to somebody. This man was talking about strangling a young woman his own age who was a college student, and he raped her after she was dead. And I looked at him, and looked like I'm looking at you, and I could see a bullet hole right between his eyes. I had no emotion whatsoever that I was aware of. And I looked at that bullet hole, and I thought, how did that bullet hole get there? And I thought, this is happening right while I was talking to this man. And I thought, I shot him. I didn't do anything. Didn't have any images of shooting him. I didn't have any emotion about shooting him. I shot him. And I thought that I was being the perfect social worker, a social work researcher, and I didn't show any emotion, and I was highly alert. To him, I thought, and the next week when I saw him, because I interviewed him in prison, of course, he wasn't out, he said to me, when I spoke to you last week, I felt like you despised me. Which I thought, isn't that remarkable? I don't know, he's a very paranoid man, and I don't know if he imagined that, or if I actually, without wanting to, communicated that. Well, these and many, many other images and experiences have had incalculable pain to me, but also incredible personal growth. The other thing that I saw is that over time I moved from being horrified and afraid. I walked into my house at night imagining that there were a couple of rapists in the house already waiting for me. I still have some of that. I'm more cautious than I ever would have been if I hadn't done research in prisons on extremely violent people. But the other thing I noticed is that at the beginning it was my personal safety that seemed to be on a high list. I saw gradually over time that the concern really did shift, that somehow I changed inside and I brought fragments of myself together. And what happened is I started having extreme compassion for the survivors. That it wasn't about me anymore. It really was about other people. And again, I'm not trying to say I'm a virtuous person. I'm as flawed as anybody else. But it was just, I think, a natural growth. Because while I was having all of these experiences, I also did many, many, many things to integrate and to maintain my mental health, because this, threatens your mental health. I did realize that I don't have a gene for mental illness, because if I did, I would have become mentally ill. I just would have gone into deep depression, I would have been bipolar, something would have happened. So I'm living proof that mental illness is a genetic at its basis. If you have enough pressure on you, enough tragedy in your life, if you have a gene for mental illness, you'll develop it. I can hardly believe it that I actually have that gift. It's just the roll of the genetic dice as far as I'm concerned. I was just pretty damn lucky. When I was a student at the Catholic University of Louvain, I learned about how important psychoanalysis was if you want to be a good therapist and a good social worker. And so when I started running into trouble, basically first, when I was a social worker without the research, I had no problem going into therapy. I went in like in a heartbeat because it was destigmatized. I didn't have to go through, well, I ain't crazy. I just thought this is a natural progression. So I've had many years of therapy, so that was really, really important to me. But I also did a lot of swimming. I can't tell you how physical activity is really important. I have horses. I'm mad about photography. I do gardening. I cook. There are all kinds of things I do to keep the balance. I've developed really a great capacity for meditation, and I don't understand it. I don't understand what happens when we meditate, but all I know is that there is a life force somewhere that I think streams through us, and if we can connect to that, we can handle a lot of things. And when I was a very young person, I read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and he was locked up in the concentration camp. He had a little tiny window, and he could see the branch of a tree. And he watched that tree go through the 4 seasons, you know, the leaves coming out and the leaves flowering and the leaves turning color and then the leaves dropping to the ground and then the bare branches. And that was his meaning. He was locked up, I think, for 4 years. And that somehow made a huge impression on me. And when I was 20 or 21 or 22, however old I was, what experience did I really have compared to what I have now at this 40 years later? So I can't say enough for us as social workers to enter into the mouth of the dragon, but I think we ought to know what we're doing and be prepared to depend on other people to help us and to help us process it. It can't be our friends, it can't be our family. We need people who do qualitative research, or we need professional therapists to help us through this. Plus we need to find what we really like to do and do it. So that's how it is for me.